All right, what the hell is up, everybody? It's your boy MichaelRayBower coming to you with a holy video. That's right, we're going to come to you with a Back to the Future movie theory for the 40th anniversary. I recently went to an event and I filmed footage, but it all was corrupted because the audio was completely destroyed from that little mini camera that I got. So I can't use any of the footage, but I can get pictures from it in the coming days. But hey, this is a segment. I am not live, but I want to do this. We had the Back to the Future 40th anniversary happening this entire year, and I went to an event and I came up with a theory of my own based off of another theory that we're going to watch today. And we're going to delve deep into time travel and Back to the Future. And I hope you guys enjoy it. But first, we got to do some housekeeping. Sorry I haven't made a video for a little while. I'm not going to tell you why. But there's a lot of reasons. But it's okay. I'm here now. So please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, that like, that subscribe button. Consider becoming a member of this channel for early and exclusive content such as this and future live streams as football approaches. And there may be a world where I live stream the Raider preseason game to members only tomorrow for football. Yeah, baby. Also, if you'd like to donate, pick up some merchandise, I have donation portals on screen, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. PayPal if you'd like to support me in continuing this channel, trying to bring you guys good content, because this is my job. It's not a good job, and I'm like PBS. I cannot make it without support and donations from you all. Hopefully the government doesn't cut my funding, where PBS will no longer exist. I also have a new item on my merchandise store, and I took away a couple of other items, and there are more designs and t-shirts coming very soon, but I'm dealing with a health surgery coming very, very soon in the next 2 weeks, so they'll be uploaded as soon as possible. But you can still support me in many different ways on Cameo, through my merchandise store, and donation portals. And if you want to play in my fantasy football league, we have 3 open spots, I believe, as of right now. So if you want to play fantasy football versus me for a prize pool of about $150 of my personal time, I'll be on your podcast, or you'll get a gift certificate to my merchandise store, and whatever, that's the payment. It's not actual cash. This is another way to support me, play versus me in fantasy football. If you'd like to do that, I'd be really appreciative. I believe we have 3 spots available. So if you'd like to play, it's $25 for the dues. It is a 12-team PPR league, and if you need more information, hit me up in the email down below or through social media DMs for more information. Or if you would just like to RSVP your spot right now, my Cash App, my PayPal, and my Venmo was on screen. It's also in the description below. Send me $25 and write in a tip note or whatever it's called, write Hey Bower Fantasy Football League, let me join, and include your email. Include your email so I can send you the league invite as soon as possible. All right? That being said, thank you guys for the love and the support. All right, let's do it. Let's do a Back to the Future movie theory. Y'all know I'm a conspiracy theorist. I love doing movie theories. I love doing different things like this. And I saw this theory that we're about to watch. I think I saw it about 1.5 years ago. And I've since added my own theories on top of this. And I will do so after we watch this 10-minute video. So, you guys are going to want to stick around for that. Then, by the end of this, whatever theories that you guys want to add on top of this, or if you want to think or tell me how my my theory of the movie is correct, let me know. So let's quickly talk about the theory before we watch the video. What is this theory that we are going to watch? Well, it is how many times Marty McFly dies within the course of the 3 Back to the Future movies. That's all I'm going to give you for now. But by the end of this episode, or this video, I'm going to answer how many times he dies, and I'm also going to answer why did Doc Brown read the letter that Marty wrote to him that saved his life. You guys are going to want to be a part of this if you're into theories. All right, let's get it started. So this video is from That Film Theory, and it's based off of how many times Marty McFly dies in the Back to the Future series. And then you're going to get my end results after this. Please check them out, The Film Theory on YouTube. I am using this as educational, transformative, and please don't get upset.
So there's a pretty good chance that you've just read that title and come here to find about the missing Back to the Future film that you didn't know about. The darker, far more grim one that ends on a depressing note with the young hero dead, Biff Tannen victorious, and Doc Brown presumably carted away to a mental asylum or arrested for gross negligence of a minor, and several dogs.
Yep.
But you'd be on a fool's errand, because the Back to the Future films in which Marty McFly dies are in fact the same ones that have long been considered the most beloved films of the 1980s.
Did you notice he said where Marty McFly dies?
You just might not have noticed the fact, because he certainly didn't. But hell, that's what time-travelling movies are for, isn't it? Cheating, that is. You don't like how your life turned out? Well, go back in time and give yourselves a sports almanac and get rich instead. You don't like how your friends' kids turned out in the future? Go back in time and tell them that they need to be sorted out for their own good. Basically, if you don't like something, you can just time travel to cheat and change to do something that you do like. And what if that's exactly what Doc Brown does? More than...
There it is. I will be answering with my theory on why that happened to Doc Brown, and he read the letter. Also, there's a lot of other theories regarding 9/11, the two towers, and a lot of things that were predicted in Back to the Future, but that's another conspiracy video or theory for another day. The proof is within the entire movie.
Once in both Back to the Future sequels. What if he robs the Grim Reaper of McFly's soul by using the DeLorean to jump back in time and avoid the things that were supposedly going to kill him? It might sound far-fetched for somebody so apparently committed to not messing with the timeline, but there's evidence there. And the only real question here is, how many times has that actually happened? Well,
how many times does Marty McFly die? Regular people, when they're asked this question, they say, Marty McFly doesn't die. Then I would ask the question, why? Why not?
Well, let's have a chat, shall we? With this in mind, I'm Jules, and this is That Film Theories. How many times does Marty McFly die in Back to the Future? Now, to accept this theory, you're going to have to accept that the Doc absolutely doesn't care about as much of the sanctity of the timeline as he claims.
So I'm going to answer why he does care about the timeline, but for this theory, like they said, they have to predict that Doc doesn't agree with the timeline or doesn't care about it. I think that's incorrect.
You also have to discredit his claim that interacting with past versions of yourself is potentially catastrophic, since the extra time traveling that he's going to be doing here in this theory would mean that even more Docs would be in one place while he meddled with that timeline.
Correct.
But there's nothing to his claims about meeting a past or future version of yourself. Sure, it makes Jennifer faint, but...
I met the original Jennifer, Claudia Wells, at the Back to the Future 818 40th anniversary event the other day. And in my eyes, even though I love Elizabeth Shue, but they got rid of her in the movies. They basically made her pass out and go into a room and fall asleep for the whole movie, because the original Jennifer is the best. Claudia Wells, we love ya.
Literally nothing happens when Doc meets himself in 1955 and even hands him tools. Fundamentally, time is not as fragile as Doc thinks. He just needs to control the rules so that he can control the outcomes for Marty and himself. Doc says that he won't meddle and that by doing so would have potentially grave consequences. So how come he reads the letter and saves his own life?
I am going to answer that at the end of this video. My version of why he reads the letter.
How come he helps Marty stop his son going to prison in the future? How come he saves Clara from her intended death in the ravine? He might pretend that he's not a meddler, but his actions say otherwise.
Correct.
And he'd probably have done even more meddling if he was able to. In the first movie, the 1955 Doc has no time machine, so he can't be on hand to help Marty. As a result, the teenager almost gets himself wiped out. He's a kid entrusted with getting his parents to bang. What more can we really expect of him?
That controversial scene, I love it. They can't believe that he made out with his mom. But so many men, to this day, have fantasies of their mother. Just like for women, they call them daddy issues, and they call men daddy. There are plenty of men that have mama issues and wish to call somebody mommy. I'm just saying. Am I one of those? You'll never know.
Absolutely no way that Doc would have allowed that to happen if he was really in control. In the same movie, Marty is also really bad at not messing with the timeline because Doc can't do anything to guide him from a position of knowledge. In other words, he has no guardian angel who has seen it happen before and can make sure that he avoids calamitous things like almost vanishing from existence on stage. You know, the things that could really ruin your day or jeopardize the entire fabric of the universe or something. But the first sequel is an entirely different matter, because Doc has his DeLorean and it's absolutely no accident that he turns up twice at incredibly convenient times to save Marty right at the last minute.
Right at the last minute. It's your kids, Marty! We gotta protect and save your kids, Marty! I'll explain why that is a famous quote that reveals all of the answers.
It's almost like he knew exactly where to be to make sure that Marty wasn't killed, like he had access to a magical sports almanac detailing all of the major events in Marty's life to the precise second.
Marty's almanac!
Which he sort of does, since he's there to witness them before
Marty's life almanac.
Using his time machine to go back and ensure that they go the way he needs to. Think about how precisely he maps the future. He knows when the rain is going to stop to the very second, not just because the weather service is more efficient, but because he's been there before to find out what happens to Marty McFly's kids. So, Marty may indeed come to situations where he dies, and Doc has to go back and change the timeline.
Yep.
Firstly, after working out how Biff got rich, Marty goes to confront him at Trump Tower. Biff Tannen's pleasure paradise to find...
Another prediction. Trump Tower. Becoming president. Back to the Future. This movie is insane with clues of the future that actually kind of came true. And they're still coming true.
Find out that he's got the sports almanac. Naturally, Biff tries to kill him to shut him up, but Marty escapes to the roof where he seems to be trapped with no hope of escape. This is not part of his plan, hence his frustration. So there's no way that he could have pre-planned an escape route involving casually leaping off the roof. And yet, Marty jumps off the roof onto the DeLorean, which has handily appeared just below him. Amazing coincidence, is what Doc says.
Or not.
Or is it something else at work? Then, back in 1955, when Marty eventually gets his hand on the almanac after Biff almost kills him in a dangerous car chase scene, there's another incredible coincidence. Marty steals the almanac, jumps safely away from Biff's car, and seems to be home free, only for Tannen to swing his car around and try and mow Marty down.
That tunnel is about 15 minutes from my location. It's called the Sepulveda Tunnel. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, I've been there. I've drove through there so many times.
But just as it looks like he's toast at the end of the tunnel, Doc miraculously appears with a rope of bunting to pull Marty to safety, literally seconds before he goes under Biff's wheel.
He's now saved Marty's life a couple of times where he should have probably died or got injured or killed. There you go.
Even accounting for Doc watching what's happening, there is absolutely no way he'd know to appear at that precise moment with having experienced it once before. As a logical scientist, surely he'd have gone to the other end of the tunnel. I mean, that's where the vehicles were heading. The only explanation that relies on almighty coincidence is that Doc knew when to save Marty because he'd already witnessed him not being saved. In one timeline, Biff ran over him and killed him, only for Doc to cheat him again by jumping back in time and making sure he was there. It's grim, but it's the only way to explain the perfect timing. And
I will explain that in a little more detail as well at the end. Wow, this is fascinating.
It fits with the fact that Marty did exactly the same thing for him in the first movie. Knowing that he was going to be killed by the Libyans, Marty used the time machine to save Doc in a less direct way, seemingly foreshadowing Doc saving his life in the sequels. And it's not just the first sequel in which it might have happened. Despite the fact that Doc appears to be trapped in the past back in Back to the Future 3, there's an argument to suggest that he actually used a secret time machine once more to save Marty from death. In Back to the Future 3, when Marty gets back to 1885, he's strung up almost immediately by tannin, only for Doc to miraculously appear precisely as the rope is choking him.
Correct.
Sure, it could have been a coincidence that he saw Marty from his workshop, even if he usually worked with his door closed on account of all the weird futuristic inventions that he was working on. But to be that precise with his coincidentally available sniper rifle, he's a peaceful man. Why would he have such an impressive weapon if not for a very specific reason?
Wow.
It's all very suspicious, frankly.
Yep.
So where did the time machine come from at this point if the DeLorean wasn't functioning? And if he had a working means to time travel, why not just use the time machine at that point to simply take Marty back to his own time rather than going through the hassle of waiting for the train? Well, first let's deal where the time machine came from. Think of it this way. Once Marty was killed, Doc would have been singularly focused on time traveling to save him. It's not like he didn't have access to an albeit broken DeLorean, nor frankly ludicrous inventiveness.
I always wanted to know the theory behind how he ended up getting a train. Maybe because I guess technically it was destroyed at the end of that movie. But I also will add to this theory at the end.
After all, this was the same scientist who would somehow make a time-traveling train that could fly in around 1895 with the technological limitations that supposedly trapped him in the past. So in short, he simply did exactly what he would do after Marty got back to the future at the end of the third movie. He made another time machine using the parts of the original broken one. Then he went back in time to 1885 and saved Marty from Biff's hangman's rope.
There you go.
And as for why he didn't just take himself and Marty back to the future at that point, well, it's important to think of Back to the Future as a sort of retelling of It's a Wonderful Life's narrative. Only instead of the morality tale being around George not existing, it's around Marty McFly's disaster.
And this is the scene where I believe there's like 9/11 logos as well, or numbers, and so many amazing things. So many amazing things.
Decision making. Doc is essentially Marty's Clarence, his guardian angel, guiding him not only to safety, but to a position where he will learn for himself how not to mess up the future. Why else would Doc take him to the future to fix something that could be fixed in the present? He needed Marty to actively learn the lessons those events would teach him in 2015. He needed Marty to learn not to be provoked into self-destructive behavior by people calling him chicken.
Nobody calls me chicken. McFly! Thanks, Needles. Appreciate that. You're fired, McFly.
Needed him to be more sensible so that when Needles offered him the race, it would ultimately ruin his life. Marty would...
There's another instance where he could have died if he was the old Marty.
Know what the right decision was to make. Again, Doc using the 1885 experience to educate Marty and make him a better person was no more than him saving his life again. Sure, he wouldn't have died in that race accident, but he would have been on the same track to a ruined life in 2015 if it had happened. It was just another example of the great timeline meddler meddling for Marty's benefit.
You think, I guess this person thought he wouldn't have died in that accident. I beg to differ.
That also explains why Doc is so casual in leaving Jennifer to see what will happen to hers and Marty's future if things don't change. There's no way he doesn't allow her to be taken by the police in that alleyway. Why else would a man...
Would you guys want to have sex with those two cops that we just witnessed from Back to the Future? I ain't gonna lie, they look pretty hot to me. I'm just saying. Those costumes. Vinyl, leathery, police uniforms. That's what they're doing nowadays to immigrants. They're just kidnapping them.
Way he doesn't allow her to be taken by the police in that alleyway. Why else would a man so meticulous in his planning just leave her on some crates? He needs Marty's future to work out well, so he allows her a glimpse of what could be to stop it from happening.
Good point.
And what if Doc used that time machine to make sure that Clara fell in love with him? What if he essentially Groundhog Dayed her? After all...
Dang, is that how he got Clara?
Isn't it a bit of a coincidence that he made sure that the man sitting on the train directly behind Clara heard his story about being heartbroken? What are the odds of that happening? But that's a question.
1,000,000 to 1.
For another time. But why is Doc Brown so willing to break his cardinal rule and mess with the timeline to save Marty multiple times? Well, quite apart from being Marty's guardian angel, it's because Doc needs Marty too. McFly is basically Doc's personal messiah. Every major moment that happens in his life, his discovery of time travel, his life being saved not only from the Libyan terrorists but also Mad Dog Tannen in 1885, his meeting with his wife Clara, all of it in some way involves Marty's interference. He's basically Doc's totem. Without him, Doc is nothing. And there we go, there's my little theory on Back to the Future. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments.
So there it is. He said, without Marty, Doc is nothing. So let me get a little image that we could have on screen that'll look really, really interesting while we talk about this. Maybe I'll just turn off the music and let it play in the background while I talk about the theory. So, how many times does Marty McFly die within the movie? Again, people said he doesn't die, which he doesn't. And we just explained the reasons why in this, or they just explained it in this theory. How many times? Well, let's look at it. I think, from my perspective, I counted 5 possible death scenarios for Marty McFly. We had the skateboard incident in Back to the Future 1. We had the rope incident in the tunnel in Back to the Future, I believe that was 1. Or that was part 2 after the almanac. In the Old West, when he was hung by the rope, that's 3. Possibly that car crash is 4. Then when he was on the roof of Trump Tower or Biff's Tower, that would be 5. If there's any other instances that you think Marty McFly had a chance to get killed, let me know what I missed. There could be more than 5 instances. And the same thing could be said for Doc Brown at instances as well. But now, so let's get to my expansion of this theory. I saw this theory like a year or so ago, and it resonated with me. That's why I'm sharing it with you guys today. But I went to the Back to the Future event the other day, and I was hanging out with some people, and I started talking about these theories. So, I'm going to pretend you're a person that I'm asking the theory to, or that I'm asking about it, and I'm speaking to you and telling you the theory in real life in front of me. So, you're the person I'm walking up to, and I go, oh, you love Back to the Future? Oh, yeah, it's one of your favorite movies? Okay, let me ask you a question. How many times does Marty McFly die in Back to the Future? Then, typically, the answer is, they think about it and they say, Marty McFly never dies in Back to the Future, the movies. And then I say, are you sure? I'm pretty sure, they say. Then I go, well, why doesn't he die? And they're like, I don't know. And I go, at every instance of possible peril, Doc Brown intervenes and quite possibly saves Marty McFly's life. At every instance of peril. Now, they're like, they want to think about every instance of peril that we just explained a minute ago. So I would explain some of these instances. Hey, remember the moment where Marty McFly's in the tunnel? He's going to get ran over by the car? Then Doc Brown shows up and saves him and picks him up. Remember the time he's at the the Biff Tower? Doc Brown brings the hoverboard right at that exact moment while Marty McFly jumps off the roof and saves him. Then when he's hanging in Back to the Future 3, Doc Brown, who you've never seen him with a gun, comes out and shoots and saves Marty from being hung by Biff and the people. Now their eyes are wide open. And they're like, wow. Then I add on to that story and I go, because somewhere along one of these timelines or the past, Marty died. And Doc Brown found out, and he was too late. Marty McFly died. And Doc Brown cannot live with that outcome. Regardless if he wanted to change the timeline or not, he could not live with that outcome. And this is where I'm adding to the theory that we just witnessed. Because remember when Marty McFly writes Doc Brown the letter telling him, on the day you read this, at certain amount of time, you will be shot by the Libyans and you will die. I'm telling you this and I'm writing you this letter to warn you. At every instance throughout the original movies, Doc Brown says, I'm not going to read the letter. It'll affect the timeline. Then he rips it up, throws it away, and whatever. But in the timeline that we're just speaking about, where Marty McFly dies for the first time, Doc Brown thinks, I can't let this happen. And that letter was the only thing I had from Marty McFly, and I ripped it up and I threw it away or whatever I did to it. And I got to go back and I got to read that letter. And I'm quite possibly going to ruin the timeline because I don't know what's in that letter. And I am dealing with the death of Marty, and he is my world, and he is my life, and he's given me everything I have. And I don't know when this happened, when actually Marty died. But you got to figure it's the first instance of peril that he passes away. And Doc learns about it. Now, Doc Brown goes back or forward, gets the letter, or puts it all back together, and he reads it. Now, in the letter, Marty is risking the future and the timeline to save Doc, his best friend, in that letter. Now, reading this, Doc realizes the timeline's already been changed multiple times because Marty has did a bunch of different things. And now I read the letter, and that quite possibly was the catalyst in Doc Brown's mind that changes the entire timeline. And Marty is telling Doc about his death. Marty does not want Doc to die. He's willing to risk everything to save Doc Brown's life, regardless of ruining the timeline. And the timeline's already changed. So now, at that moment, Doc goes back in time and saves Marty McFly from death that first time. But now, Doc Brown has to do that the rest of his life. That's what Doc Brown's life moving forward is, now that he changed and saved Marty McFly and Marty saved him. So for the rest of his days, Doc Brown has to go back and forth into time and save Marty McFly at every instance. That's why in Back to the Future 2, or the end of part 1, that's why the line is, Marty, it's not you, it's your kids, Marty. We got to go back go into the future and save your kids. Because all this entire time, Doc Brown was saving Marty. Now, all of these savings of Marty's life had consequences. And now he has to also protect and save Marty's kids. So Doc Brown's complete future hinges on saving Marty McFly and his family for the rest of eternity. Or at least as long as Doc Brown physically lives. And then that's why he also gives that responsibility to Marty. But he had children of his own. Doc Brown did, with Clara. He had Jules and Vern. And now those kids will have to protect Marty and Clara and Marty's family throughout time as well. So their life is kind of over in a way because the timeline was changed. But it's fascinating to think about. Freaking fascinating to think about. Also, in terms of the letter that Marty wrote to Doc Brown, there is an alternate theory in my brain as well of how I just mentioned that, Marty died, then he went back and all he had from Marty was the letter. So he went back and put it together and read it. There's also could be a difference to that where Marty dies. Then Doc Brown goes and saves Marty's life. And he knows, I ruined the timeline. By saving Marty, I ruined the timeline. And I changed it. So now I can go read the letter. It might have been done after saving Marty the first time. So now, after saving Marty, he realized, screw it, I changed the timeline for Marty's life. So I might as well go read the letter. There's that possibility as well. So let me know, guys, what you think. Does my added theory upon how many times Marty McFly dies, does it hold weight? Do you think that's why Doc Brown read the letter for the two reasons I've explained? Or do you have any alternate other theories on why some of this stuff happened? Please, I want to know. Or send links to different videos that I could watch. That'll be really fascinating. Because I'm really enjoying going over these movie theories. And I hope to have more to come for some other movies in video format. And I'm going to try my best within the coming month, barring my surgery that I'm going to have in about 2.5 weeks. I'm going to make a movie watch club where I'm going to watch movies and I'm going to watch them with members and through Patreon, I believe, and we're going to have a good time. Maybe I can even watch them through YouTube without using Patreon, but it's just the copyright and the trademark. I got to test it and see what happens. But please, if you guys would like to become a member to be included in all of this stuff, you know how to do so. Subscribe down below. Let me know if the theory holds weight. What's your theory? And I'll see you on the next one. And if you got some movie theories from other movies, or you want to ask me a question about another movie that maybe I'll answer it on a future video, please, please let me know in the comment section below. I recommend you guys go back and watch Back to the Future movies and come up with some of your own theories. What a fantastic movie. And I met the actors that played Mayor Goldie Wilson, the guy that cut his hand and sang the song, Marvin Berry, the actor. I met Claudia Wells. I met the skateboard kid. I met Jason Hervey again from Wonder Years. He was in it as well, and I met some amazing actors. And if you guys want to watch the vlog, I wasn't able to make it because my video footage, the audio got corrupted. Yeah. But Wet Movie 1, Brendan Mitchell made a vlog about it the other day. It is available to watch. I'll add the link on this video. You guys go check it out, and I think you'll have a good time. Life is beautiful. Life is good. It's okay to not be okay. And I'll see you on the next video. Hopefully a podcast within the next 4 or 5 days. I love y'all. Thank you guys for being in my life. I truly mean that.